RB Leipzig 0, Liverpool 5. Darwin Nunez formidable inside 45 minutes. I'm Guy Clarke. Welcome along to the Debrief Live. Our Liverpool correspondent Paul Gorst and Liverpool.com's Matt Addison alongside me as we look back on the Reds' dismantling of RB Leipzig here on the Blood Red channel. Mohamed Salah then getting things started early on before Darwin Nunez taking centre stage in the second half. Gorsty, first up, pre-season or not, that was a very exciting second 45 from Darwin Nunez, and I suppose all the haters are probably creeping away now.
I'm sure they'll still find something to have a gripe about. Yeah, I mean, I said on Monday's Blood Red Pod I didn't want to dwell too much on the people who were having a little bit of a dig and a jab at Nunez, because it was largely fans of rival clubs who were probably ultimately still children, so I didn't want to give that type of profile, if you like, too much airtime. But there's no doubt that this was much more like what Liverpool fans are hoping Darwin Nunez is going to contribute. I thought when he stepped up to take the penalty, I thought, half of me was thinking it's a little bit of a token gesture from the team to get him up and running, particularly from Mo Salah, who would have fancied his chances had it been a Premier League game. But if you've seen any of his goals from his time at Benfica, he's absolutely deadly from the penalty spots. He takes penalties superbly. I don't think any keeper got near any of the ones that I've seen him take last season. So, it was kind of mixed feelings seeing him step up. When the keeper got a hand to it, I initially thought he saved it, and I thought, oh no, this is just going to be more ammo for those naysayers. But he stuck it away, and the second one for me was the most impressive. He kind of, he went clean through, didn't he, and then took it like a striker who's, been putting those chances away for 10 years. Third one was another poacher's effort, and then the fourth one, the keeper probably should do better, but it just shows that he's just a proper number 9, isn't he? A proper striker. Liverpool haven't had that type of centre forward, certainly under Jurgen Klopp. So different era, different way of approaching it, in the final third with that type of striker up top. But, 4 goals, it's only pre-season, of course, but 4 goals kind of shows that he certainly knows where the back of the net is. So well done to him.
Yeah, plenty of love for him in the chat box as well. Many getting in touch, John, there saying the third goal, proper number 9 goal, what Liverpool have been missing. Easily, Matt could have had 5 or 6, considering the header. There were other chances for him as well, but it was a very rounded display, all different kinds of goals as well.
Yeah, I think that's the impressive thing, isn't it? Lots of different kinds of finishes. I think the penalty was a little bit fortunate. You wonder what might have happened if he hadn't have scored that one. But the other goals, you just sort of get excited about it, don't you? Like the comment said there, it's a different type of striker. It's a different type of kind of rounded player within that penalty area. I know Diogo Jota can do it, of course, but this is kind of a proper number 9, isn't it? Someone who's going to sort of score quite a lot of those types of goals, I would have thought, throughout the rest of this season. I think it was, really important actually for him to get even just 1 goal today. I think just to kind of stop that narrative. We saw him kind of bite back a little bit with the tweet about resilience, and you kind of wondered how much of that kind of stuff was getting into his head, and he was reading about it. But that just ends now. That's the end of that, and you can kind of get on with the rest of pre-season, hopefully get 1 or 2 more goals and really hit the ground running, which I think is probably more important by the fact that Diogo Jota doesn't look like he's going to be back now until a couple of weeks' time, isn't probably going to start the season. There was a little bit more pressure, I think, on Darwin Nunez to kind of come in and start well, but yeah, you'd imagine the fact that he's come in and done the sort of performance, all-round performance, not just the goals, the other stuff as well tonight. He's kind of fitted it all together in what was a really exciting performance. So yeah, as Gorsty said, I'm sure the highlight reels will be slightly different tonight compared to what they were a few nights ago. It is still only pre-season, but it can only be a good thing.
No, definitely. Chris has got in touch with us as well. Gorsty says that was a very strong Leipzig side as well. Even the changes they were bringing on in the second half, Hedara came on, Forsberg came on as well. It wasn't a weak RB Leipzig side. This is a side, of course, Liverpool played in the Champions League in the not too distant past as well. And really, first half, Mohamed Salah, of course, got things started really early with a really nice composed finish himself. And second half, whilst yes, it was the Nunez show, it was also Liverpool in complete control, even with the amount of changes they ended up making.
Yeah, it was, and obviously Nkunku and Szoboszlai started as well. So it was a strong Leipzig team, wasn't it? As you say, even with the changes. But yeah, Liverpool firmly in control. I think I don't really remember any. Adrian made that save, didn't he, at the end of the first half? I don't remember Harvey Davis having to do anything really, or even Matip when he came on and Gomez. I thought Carvalho was excellent. I thought Harvey Elliott was excellent. And Elliott in particular, now I'm looking at him thinking, is he going to be starting central midfield when the season begins? I think he's got as much of a chance as anyone else, really, outside of Fabinho and Thiago. We know that Klopp put him in there last season, didn't he? And had it not been for that horrendous ankle injury at Leeds in September, who knows how many more of appearances he would have played there. So he looks like he's over the worst of that now. He's looked really sharp in Thailand and Singapore against United and Palace, and I thought he was excellent tonight. And Carvalho, particularly for Nunez's fourth, when he just headers it, kind of into the space and carries it and drives, 25, 30 yards, waits and waits for the right time to lay in Nunez and he sticks it away. It was just such intelligent play for a player who's only 19, isn't he? But he's probably one of the brightest players under 21 in British football, and that's the reason that Liverpool are so keen to get him. So he's had another impressive performance today, and I think he's going to actually surprise people with the amount that he plays next season. I think he's going to be more than just a player for the Cups. I think we will see him in the Premier League, not every week, but certainly more than perhaps a lot of people are thinking. So, yeah, Nunez obviously the big winner for the night, but thought Carvalho and Elliott were excellent when they came on as well.
Yeah, a number of the youngsters really grabbing kind of the head, or not the headlines, they belong to Darwin Nunez, but really catching the eye, Matt. I know you spend a lot of time down at Kirby watching the academy as well. It's not often in a 5-0 preseason win the substitute goalkeeper is given praise, but Harvey Davis, even one of those coming in for praise. And a number of people, LFC Spectre here, saying thought the link-up play throughout the second half was absolutely fantastic. And also goes on to say Stefan Bajcetic becoming like a mini Fabinho. I mean, his interception and tackle was what led to Darwin Nunez's first goal in open play on the night after the penalty. And whilst he probably arrived as a centre-half, he has played in pre-season in that kind of deeper midfield anchor role, and he's looked quite accomplished there.
Yeah, he's played there a little bit for Liverpool's youth teams last season. I think it's a position that he's more than comfortable with, can play at centre-back as well. But you'd think that kind of the base of that midfield was a more obvious route to sort of regular minutes. When you think of the options Liverpool have got a little bit further back, it's probably more realistic. It's still very, very hard. I think the Fabinho comparison, it might be slightly too early for that at this stage. But certainly, a good performance and just really confident and really assured. I think it's always a good sign when you get a young player who comes into the team and just doesn't look out of place, really. He was sort of spraying the ball about, getting about the pitch, putting his foot in and winning the ball back and just really enjoying himself, which I think says a lot about his composure. And I think you could say the same for the goalkeeper as well. Obviously, didn't have to really make a save, but you can tell the kind of goalkeepers that Liverpool are developing now. It's very much, very, very good with their feet, very comfortable on the ball. And obviously, that's all he needed to do tonight. And that's what he did. So, yeah, I think for both of those players, it was a really confident, really assured performance. And I think, it's going to be very, very hard for Stefan Bajcetic to get minutes during the season just because of, the importance of the game and all the rest of it. But I think this is, just the start, really, of what we might see from him. Give him another season at academy level, maybe playing for the 23s regularly in that position. And you just don't know what can happen in the future. We don't know what's going to happen with injuries. But from, what we've seen of him so far this preseason, it's been, really, really good signs from him. So, yeah, great to see. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that at academy level next season. But I think a lot of people who maybe hadn't heard of him or certainly hadn't seen much of him before this preseason probably taken a little bit by surprise. I think he's the one out of the youngsters that's really taken the opportunity in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, without wanting to read too much into pre-season, Paul, it does kind of show that the trusting youth that's been put into the club at Liverpool over the last few years looks as though it is going to bear fruit and maybe kind of a youth revolution on the cards some way down the line for Liverpool, with a number of these players already quite clearly knocking on Jurgen Klopp's door for even consideration for, as you said, Fabio Carvalho might not be a cup player, but a number of these young players may well get that kind of opportunity.
Yeah, it's just the way Liverpool operates, isn't it? Obviously, in amongst all of the big money signings of the last few years, the likes of Addison and Van Dijk and and now Nunez, they've always looked to try and see what they can do elsewhere. You know, Harvey Elliott's come in for not a lot of money. Fabio Carvalho could reach as much as 7 million, which is nothing really nowadays. Cade Gordon, Liverpool actually paid Derby 500,000 a couple of months ago to have that kind of sell-on clause taken out because they've obviously got big hopes for him. Bobby Clark's another one who's come in. Stefan Bajcetic, Liverpool obviously kind of sprung into action at the end of the year to make sure that they signed him before the UK left the European Union, which would have changed the way that Liverpool were allowed to operate in the kind of European market for teenagers. So they're always looking to see who's about. Like that search is, been forcibly refined because of those rules over the last 18 months. So they're looking now at who are the best youngsters across the country, and certainly in Carvalho, and obviously we know Elliott. He's playing in the Premier League for Liverpool. We know that they're two of the best teenagers, probably in Europe at the moment, aren't they? Certainly in England. So that's kind of the way Liverpool operate. They're obviously always looking for the here and now, but the future. You never stop looking for the future either. So it's exciting, really. For the long haul. You look at players like Joe Gomez as well. He's only just turned 25, or rather, he's 25, and he's been at Liverpool since he was 18. He's kind of the yardstick now that these young players probably looking at and thinking, this is what we need to do. And then you look a little bit further across the squad, the likes of Diaz and Jota. Nunez has only just turned 23. Canate was 23 in May. Alexander-Arnold still, what's he, 23? So the core of the squad is getting younger and younger. So that'll only hold them in good stead for the long term, especially when they grow together, stay together, and hopefully win things together.
Yeah, Trent, 23, turns 24 in October. That's how it works. But that's certainly something to get excited about. Matt, final one to you. RB Salzburg, or Red Bull Salzburg, to come next week, and then it's into the Community Shield in Strasbourg before the Premier League season gets underway at Fulham. Off the back of that, a 5-0 win over a side who regularly compete in the Champions League these days. It feels as though the excitement levels have very much gone through the roof this evening before the new season gets underway.
Yeah, it can only be a good sign, can't it? I think, to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with how Leipzig played. I thought they'd give Liverpool a bit more of a game than that, but maybe that's just, a difference in sharpness. Their season starts at the same time as Liverpool, so I think that's probably a little bit of a shock for them at this point. But I think there was loads of positives, really. Obviously, Darwin Nunez is the obvious one, but I thought Mohamed Salah looked really sharp. I think Roberto Firmino had a good half an hour, maybe looked a little bit jaded the back end of that first half when he was playing. I think Luis Diaz had a couple of good moments. There was, Fabio Carvalho breaking from midfield, Harvey Elliott looking good. So, yeah, for Liverpool, it's, just another pre-season game to get minutes under the belt. But, we've kind of seen a progression, I think, with each of these pre-season games. It looked a little bit disjointed, a little bit all over the place in the United match, understandably, with, it being the first game, early doors, lots of changes, but it's kind of progressively got more and more like a Liverpool team. And I think we've definitely seen that. We'll definitely see that next week as well. And then into Manchester City, which I think will be probably the first time during pre-season that we can properly judge where Liverpool are at and kind of see the performance and the team that they put out in that match. Strasbourg as well, of course, that weekend as well. But I just think, that Manchester City one is the time to judge Liverpool. We didn't get too sort of down on Darwin Nunez not scoring last week. Let's not get too far up on this one. But, all the signs are there. It's definitely positive for Liverpool. And, yeah, like you say, not too far away now from the actual season starting.
Definitely an exciting evening nonetheless for Liverpool. Thanks to those joining us live on YouTube in the chat box and to those listening in on our podcast channels. From myself, Guy Clarke, Paul Gorst and Matt Addison. There'll be a full Blood Red episode on Friday to follow with further analysis and insight into the 5-0 win over Leipzig. But for now, that's all we've time for. It's bye for now.